Hello, and welcome to NJ.com's live TV chat with Vicki Hyman. Today we'll be talking about our picks for the top 10 TV shows of the year. So Vicki, say hello to everyone.
Hey everybody.
All right, we have a lot to get to. This cast might go a little longer than normal, so we're going to dive right in. I'm going to start off with my number 10 pick, and that was Louie on FX. I think the show has progressed beautifully since it debuted some years back, and it's gotten quite dramatic in parts. I think Louis C.K., the comedian Louis C.K., is building on something every season with weird arcs, and I know, Vicki, you watch the show too, correct?
I do. I kind of dip in and out a little bit, but yeah.
Right. I mean, like, what are your thoughts? I mean, like do you think the tone of the show has gotten pretty dark in the past couple seasons? And I have to admit, I don't mind it. I think Louis C.K. is really elevating his game.
I think it's really great, and I actually came to Louis at a bit of a disadvantage because I hated Lucky Louie so much from HBO. So when I started watching, I was like, but it's everything I watch is always so great. He made those headlines with the episode with the overweight woman that he was dating, which was a big talker of the season, which I really enjoyed.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's great, and Pamela Adlon, I know we both agree, is so wonderful.
Wonderful. And just as an aside, if you ever see Lucky Louie on rerun on HBO ever again, and sometimes they show them, he made that show kind of like an ode to the honeymooners. So next time you look at it, it feels...
Not a fan of the honeymooners.
Okay, well there you go. Give us your number 10.
I know you're going to roll your eyes. I know you scoff at the fantasy genre, but Game of Thrones. And Anthony, if you could just get past the dragons, honestly, you'd find a show that is every bit as much about contemporary politics and power as House of Cards. And there's sword fighting, and there's lots of boobs. Lots of boobs. The consistency of Game of Thrones to me is just staggering. We just ended the 4th season, and the storytelling is getting like so complicated, but it still remains just coherent. It remains gripping. There was another very eventful wedding. There was a murder in the privy, and there was essentially a courtroom scene with Peter Dinklage that was just worth the price of admission.
Well,
really great stuff.
I don't watch Game of Thrones. I doubt I ever will. I feel like I watch it because every Sunday night on Facebook, my feed is exploding with all sorts of weird status updates. All right, my number 9 is Veep on HBO. For me, it is hilarious. I think what I like about Veep is that the cast really works well with one another. They play off of each other wonderfully, even in the silence. And for me, I mean, I love that show. I'm kind of wondering where they're going this season because
now that she's no longer Veep.
They can't call it Veep anymore. But give us your number 9.
Homeland, which we have been discussing every Sunday.
Right.
Now, I have to say, I was over Carrie and Brody in the first season. That's not why I watched this show. I watched it because it is this unvarnished take on espionage and the war on terror, and that's where the show really settled itself this season. It's a spy thriller. It's not focusing on Carrie's personal life, with the exception of that poorly conceived literal throwing of the baby out with the bathwater. The hostage standoff with Saul was incredible. I was like watching like this, and it turned out it was just a prelude to the embassy assault. So I mean, kudos. It's amazing. I love everything about Quinn this season. I'm glad that they have not as yet made it about Carrie and Quinn and a romance, whatever. It's like, please, does not need to go there.
And quite frankly, I'm ready for the spinoff of just Quinn.
Just Quinn.
Quinn. So that's Showtime, if you're listening, Quinn. My number 8 is True Detective on HBO. If you had asked me this earlier in the year, I probably would have ranked it a lot higher. What I really liked about True Detective was that its pace was just this unnerving, unsettling, the jumping of narratives. And normally I don't like jumping narratives, but here it worked. The cast, my God, like, as if we didn't already love Matthew McConaughey, we have another reason.
But Woody Harrelson was just as good. He was in the less showy part.
He was just as good, and I think he had the more difficult part because he had to play sort of the straight man, and to McConaughey's wackadoo. And I mean, for all the craziness at the end, and I'm not going to spoil it for anybody, I still think it was worth everyone's while. So put that on your Christmas list this year. Hope that Santa brings it, puts it in your stocking. That is my number 8. Vicki, what is your number 8?
My number 8 also has to do with narrative jumping. Actually, there are several shows in my top 10 that does that. Mine is The Affair on Showtime. I'm a little trepidatious about putting shows that the season hasn't ended yet. I think the finale is this Sunday. But I have liked it so much. It's a relationship drama. It's a mystery, and it's even like a bit of a psychological experiment because it's told from the point of view of both people in the affair, and their recollections differ in ways small and large, but always fascinating. There's a murder mystery that's slowly layered in, and now, like at the end, it's like this relationship drama as the affair unravels, and then they come back together again. Yeah, it's one of my just happy shows. Like I sit down and I'm just like, oh my god, I cannot wait for another episode.
I think I plan on checking that out at some point, maybe when there's a lull during the next year. All right, are you ready for my number 7?
I'm ready.
My number 7 is The Leftovers. Again, another HBO show. I didn't read the book. I know you did, but for me, they got me at the hook. The rapture-like event where, what is it, 1/4 of the world's population just...
It's actually only 2%. Only 2%.
There you go. To me, that was just a great setup. And knowing that we're never going to find out what happened is quite disturbing in its own way. There's no aliens or anything like that. I mean, this is just a creepy, creepy thing that happened, and the guilty remnant, and how the town is dealing with all this. Now, I know HBO is going back to basics for the second season in a weird way and kind of retooling the show. Hopefully, it'll build upon what it did. So, what's your number 7?
My number 7, I also don't think you watched, Penny Dreadful on Showtime.
I don't. I plan on it. But tell us why you liked it.
It was really great. It's this Victorian drama about literary monsters, and it was very over the top, but it really worked. It had this exceptionally strong cast with Timothy Dalton and Eva Green especially, and surprise, surprise, 90s heartthrob Josh Hartnett as a Wild West sharpshooter with a mysterious past. The second season, at the very end of the first season, you sort of like learned a little bit more about his mysterious past. I'm very excited for where that's going now. Eva Green was incredible. She played a woman who was being possessed by the devil, basically, or being possessed by somebody who was going to be the devil's mate, perhaps. And it was gut-wrenching watching her. She had this one scene at a seance where she's channeling people from Timothy Dalton's past, people who had died, and it's just incredible to watch. I mean, physically incredible. She does amazing things with her body, her eyes, the way she's able to channel the different voices, incredible. Bit over the top, I admit it, but really good.
That's okay. So it's coming back for another season?
It is. It is.
Okay. All right. My number 6 pick. Probably nobody will agree with me, but it is *Halt and Catch Fire* on AMC.
It had its moments.
It had its moments. AMC went to the Mad Men drawing board and said, what if we placed a show in the 1980s about the dawn of the computer revolution? And we had a Don Draper type, and Lee Pace, for my money, was a pretty good Don Draper clone. It had its problems, but I found myself really enjoying the show week after week. I know this show is nowhere near your list, but I do. But I do
Not
know
the same country.
No, but you did watch it. I think we kind of had some. I think you sort of enjoyed it a little bit. Right?
There are elements of it that I enjoyed. I loved Kelly Bichet as the wife, who is more capable than pretty much any of them put together.
Yes.
I liked the sort of caper-esque part. The last couple of episodes were they're at the computer convention, and of course we both loved that last moment where Lee Pace's character realizes the opportunity that he missed out on when he sees this magical new computer that turns up at this convention.
Yes. All right. Well, hopefully, AMC did renew it. It will be back. It was a little touch and go there for a second, but they had a massive social media campaign. So I'll be waiting with bated breath. Vicki, give us your number 6.
Number 6 sounds familiar. It's True Detective. Now, a lot of people were obsessed by the serial killer mystery and Rust Cole's metaphysics, but I watched it for the drama of the relationship between Rust and Marty, and I also loved the way it was structured with the 2 timelines that each reflected on each other. But for me, it was, how did this clean-cut Rust become this bedraggled bartender? That was what I just kept puzzling over throughout. And then you find out, and he and Marty come back together, and they work together. And the finale, when they find the killer, fine. It was whatever. I loved the hospital parking lot scene at the very end. That really brought it home for me. I thought it was great.
It really did feel like a novel sort of exploding on the screen, or the small screen, I should say. Okay, my number 5 pick, I know is a favorite of yours. It is Fargo.
The Newsroom. Okay.
No, not the Newsroom. Fargo on FX. When I have to admit, when it was announced that FX was doing a show about Fargo, I didn't know what to think. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know if FX could develop it properly. But wow, I mean, Billy Bob and the rest of the cast, my goodness, it was surreal. It was odd. It paid homage to the original Coen Brother film. It was a really good show, and by all rights, it probably should be higher or lower on my list. But there's just too much there for me. Give us your number 5.
Number 5 is another show that hasn't ended yet, so hopefully it will not. Can I say screw the pooch? Sorry.
Go right ahead.
The Missing. It is on. It is a British import about a boy who goes missing while on vacation in France with his parents. And like True Detective, it's told on 2 tracks. One is following the immediate aftermath of the disappearance, and the other is several years later when the father, who is since, no spoiler, has split from his wife in the aftermath of all this. He discovers some new evidence, comes back to town, and lists this legendary detective, kind of a Sherlock Holmes figure, into trying to find out what happened to his son. And it's very emotional. It's very gripping. It's going in all sorts of directions, and I find myself. It's a Saturday night show on Stars, and that's where I am every Saturday night. I mean, they sent me a screener. I burned through it in like a day. And so now, actually, I think, finally, I think last week was like the first episode. I was like, oh my God, I can watch a new one.
Let me ask you real quick. Is there any indication there's going to be a second season?
Yes, I think I just read that they're coming back. I think they're going to be doing an anthology version of it too, which is like,
Okay.
That's a new thing.
That was my question.
New mystery.
No, new mystery. Okay. Are you ready for my number 4?
I'm ready.
My number 4 is Homeland, which was discussed by you earlier. I think the show really redeemed itself this year. Carrie is still Carrie, and I don't want to spend too much longer on this because it seems like we discuss Homeland every week. But kudos for anyone out there who gave up on Showtime's Homeland. Come back to it because wow, what a season they're having. And so with that said, Vicki, give us your number 4.
Mad Men.
Mad Men.
And we had a discussion about this, that for me, when I think about Mad Men, the image I'm left with from the last year or so is actually when Don shows up with his kids at the house that he grew up in. And yes, it happened not this year, it happened last year, but that, and both sides now comes over and he shares a look with his daughter, and it's like that is the moment where Don, who loses his mojo like every other episode and always gets it back, it really felt like he is going in a new direction now, and that's what this past season has been about. He is getting his mojo back, but he's doing with this newfound humility that makes me think he's actually capable of change. His relationship with Peggy underwent many contortions this season because she was basically his boss, and but it ended up where they are, true colleagues, and the scene when they dance to My Way. Is just another of my favorite moments throughout the show. And of course, I also love Bert Cooper's send-off at the end.
It really was a great half season. All right. My number 3 is a show I know you don't watch. Boardwalk Empire on HBO.
I don't watch it because I don't have to watch it because you do.
Exactly. I'll admit, I covered it for the website since
Mhm.
it started. It was a hard show to cover. I mean, there's a lot going on, historically, and it seems like there's like tons of characters. The show ended its run. Uh, I didn't like the finale, but I'm not going to say that I didn't enjoy the show this year. I think they had a great season. It's a wonderful show, and that's all I'll say about that. Vicki, let us know your number 3.
A very personal pick, Outlander on Stars, which is based on the series of novels by Diana Gabaldon about a time-traveling World War II nurse who ends up in Scotland in the midst of the Jacobite Rebellion. And as I said earlier, yes, I had to Google that too. I had no idea what it was. And it is really beautifully emotional. The actress who plays Claire Fraser in the series is I hope I'm saying her name right, Katrina Balfe. She is amazing. The show is told almost entirely from her point of view. She's almost in every single scene. She's this woman with modern sensibilities, or modern even for World War II, who is forced to live with foreknowledge of what's going to happen to these people in Scotland, as she sort of navigates through society and the politics of the time, and she's giving an incredible performance. It is so beautiful. The opening credits, if you do anything, just find the opening credits, and you'll be crying by the end. It's so beautiful.
I will not be crying by the end.
Just watch it. It's beautiful filmmaking too.
Do you read the books?
I'm actually on the 3rd book right now. The first season is the first book. It's in 2 parts. We only saw the first 8 episodes, and the next 8 episodes comes back in April, and that'll be the first. That'll take you through the first book, I believe. Okay. So right now I'm zooming ahead to the 3rd book, just like I did with Game of Thrones. Actually, I was introduced to it by the TV series, and then I went back and read all the books.
All right. You ready for my number 2 pick?
Ready.
My number 2 pick is the Showtime neo-noir drama set in L.A., Ray Donovan. You hear me talk about Ray Donovan every week. You hear me tell you...
Your man crush.
Man crush. I love Ray Donovan. I think Ray Donovan is the heir apparent to Don Draper of sorts. If Don Draper punched people in the face every week, it would be Ray Donovan.
Love to see that.
Exactly. But John Voight on the show... My gosh, I mean, where TV has been looking for John Voight all this time. He's great on the show as Ray's dad, his criminal father. I like the show. I mean, I know it probably didn't make many critics lists. I know it was nominated for a couple. Was it a Golden Globe? I think something like that.
Both Liv Schreiber and John Voight.
So, it's one of those shows where I'm happy when it's on. I'm not covering it. I'm not writing about it. I can sit down and enjoy it. So that is my number 2. What is your number 2?
Orange is the New Black. Dramedy is the new television. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. It's this amazing mix of really hysterical moments and heart-wrenching moments and truly terrifying moments. This season, almost entirely courtesy of a villain called V, played by Lorraine Toussaint, who has she's basically the mother figure outside of prison to Tasty. And she comes in, and she had been in prison before, and so there's these power struggles with Red, played by Kate Mulgrew, and you see the way she is just this warrior of psychological drama. She can work every single one of her fellow inmates to do exactly what she wants them to do. And the other thing that this season was really great at, it wasn't so much about Piper, the upper class female woman who went to prison for some long ago involvement in some drug dealing scheme, but it was really about all the other characters on the show, and it gave them all wonderful showcases. You got a lot of backstories that were just fascinating, and of course they turned all the characters on their ear. Like when you find out that Morello, who seemed to be this really, really sweet romantic, you find out she was actually a stalker, and that she didn't have this boyfriend who was waiting for her to get married to. She had been stalking him. That's why she was in prison. And finally, there's a cancer patient named Rosa who ended up being sort of like the emotional center of the season, and she had a wonderful relationship with a fellow cancer patient that she was sort of like a criminal mentor to. It was a great season. I loved it.
So in other words, you liked it. Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
My number one pick, before I tell you, I'm going to show you how this was really hard for me. This looks like a John Madden football play, but my number one pick was Mad Men. What can I say that you didn't already elaborate on? Don Draper and company, they've been through a lot, ups and downs. I mean, the agency has seen more owners than, God knows what. I am looking forward to the final half of Mad Men's final season. I want to see where Don Draper lands. Something tells me it may not be great, but you never know. With that said, let me have your number one pick.
Well, you mentioned it before. Drum roll. It's Fargo. I've been talking about Fargo all year long. I've been foisting on people, you have to watch this. I, too, had the same concerns. It's like, why do you need to do that? And the fact that they managed to do the series that had a very similar tone, very similar archetypes in the show, but made it completely different and completely wonderful. It's astounding to me. It was a real work of art. The Frances McDormand character in the movie, Marge Gunderson, was like the emotional center of the movie, the humanity of the movie, and Alison Tolman did an incredible job basically fulfilling the same role in this one. Billy Bob Thornton was incredible and chilling and creepy, and he was just everything. And, there were just so many wonderful characters all around. Martin Freeman was great, and he was actually much more of a villain than, say, the William H. Macy character was in the movie. And I mean, and on top of it all, do you remember that great scene where Billy Bob Thornton goes into that building and he just kills everybody in the building, and you don't see one thing really? You just see him coming up through the stairs, and you hear the sound of the gunfire, and it was all shot from outside. It was incredible.
It was the kind of show that, when you would explain it to somebody, you really couldn't. It was an odd show. The tone was it really was like a black comedy. It was an odd, quirky, ingenious show that I hope in the second season with an all-new cast that they can build upon. Real quick, I want to ask you if you have any honorable mentions.
I do, and some of them were ones that you had mentioned on your top 10 list. I also I can't say I really enjoyed Leftovers in that sense. Like, I was like sitting in front of it with Ben and Jerry's eating it. Right. But it was amazing. Ann Dowd, who played Patty, was, she's like the most valuable player of the year. She popped up in so many different shows, and she was great. I don't think Shameless gets nearly enough love on Showtime, and they went to another really dark place this season. Veep is great. Parks and Recreation is great. On the reality show side, Real Housewives. No, I'm kidding. Not Real Housewives of New Jersey. Top Chef. I love Top Chef. Every single season they managed to keep it fresh. I would have to say that any of those I could have comfortably put in my top 10.
All right, real quick, my honorable mentions are really adult comedies that we're starting to see on channels like FX and IFC. You're the Worst, Marin, which I absolutely love, Garfunkel and Oates, which is cute but very adult at the same time. I like these. It's a nice departure from the cutesy family and the cutesy kids of Modern Family. And lastly, what are you looking forward to this year coming up for 2015?
Well, Better Call Saul better be good because they are messing with, one of my favorite shows of all time. But I have high hopes for that. And, of course, I'm very much looking forward to the second half of Outlander, which is in April. That is what I am.
Right.
Can't wait for.
I am looking forward to Terrence Winter's new show, Terrence Winter created Boardwalk Empire. He's got a new show on HBO with Martin Scorsese and a lot of the creative team. Set in the world of music in New York during the 1970s with Bobby Cannavale. And I think even like Mick Jagger is co-producing this. It's going to be a great show. Andrew Dice Clay is in it. I mean, Ray Romano. It's got a really weird but quirky cast. I'm looking forward to that. And I'm also looking forward to another HBO show, Westworld, based on the Michael Crichton novel, movie of the 70s.
With Yul Brynner, right?
That was Yul Brynner,
yeah,
exactly.
I love that movie.
Exactly. Okay, well, there you go. That's what we're looking forward to. I want to thank everyone for joining us on this extended version of our TV chat every week. Vicki, say goodbye to your legions of fans.
Oh, my legions. Goodbye, legions.
All right, take it easy. See you next week.